And when we stop playing this idea that we're like a victim of things coming our way and that we don't have enough time, like that's one of my things, like the words busy and not having enough time are kind of one of my pet peeve things. Like we need to stop saying those things. Like as women, we need to stop saying that we're too busy or that we don't have enough time, because ultimately we have those choices. Like if you want something in your calendar, you can make the time for it. You can make it happen. And so like you said, we compare ourselves to everybody else, but at the same time, we overwhelm ourselves and don't allow ourselves to actually do the things that we want it to be. And so we're comparing like apples to oranges instead of, what we want and what's on good for us.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Mom Does It All. If you're looking for encouragement, empowerment, and uplifting in motherhood and mompreneurship, this is a show for you. I'm your host, Marcia Spurk, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. On this episode, I talked to Renae Fieck, declutterer expert and creator of the Rise Above method, helping moms find freedom from overwhelm. We talk about how decluttering is so important, and not just in our homes, but in our calendars and in our minds. Renae gives us some pretty awesome tips on how to do it just in time for the new year. Let's get right to it. Hold up, one more thing. I'm doing a 30-day self-love challenge to ring in 2020 on a note of positivity and self-respect. And I'd love for you to join me. We start January 6th inside the Empowered Woman School. Sign up now at marchaspurk.com and join other women on this personal development journey for just $27. I'll see you in there. Hi, Renae. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so a little background story. I actually connected with Renae on Instagram. She actually heard me on a different podcast and connected with me and wanted to swap podcasts. And once I found out what she does, she's an expert declutterer, I was like, all right, I have to have her on to give us some tips on how to declutter. And what's even more interesting is that she does not just work with stuff. She works with the mindset because, believe it or not, there are feelings involved in the whole decluttering process. And that's why it's so hard. If you've watched Marie Kondo or read her book, you know how those things are very interconnected. And so I want Renae to share more with us. But please, let's start with how you got into this.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited to share. And honestly, if you had seen me years and years ago, you would have never expected that I would be the person talking about decluttering. So it's kind of ironic that that's where I'm at today. But it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago that my husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And so he was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and we had my third baby in the same year.
Wow.
And then in that year, he started having seizures. So he couldn't drive anymore. And so I had spent that year with a brand new baby, driving him back and forth to work. I was the only one that could go to the grocery store or take kids to school and like anything because he couldn't drive. And if he needed to get somewhere that I couldn't, he had to use Uber or Lyft or something of that nature. And so by the end of the year, I was exhausted and wiped out and totally burnt out. And we were in Hawaii on our 10-year anniversary trip. And from the outside of it, everything was great. I mean, I had 3 healthy kids. My husband was healthy. Everything looked great, but I was so worn down and so depleted and exhausted, and realized I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I remember walking down the street in Hawaii thinking, I bet you I could just stay here. I could stay in Hawaii and send my kids home with Joe, and they would be fine without me. And if I'll just start my life over again. And this time around, I won't go down the motherhood route because this is just too hard. And I don't want to be here. This isn't happy. I'm not happy. I don't like this. It just was so overwhelming and so just hard. I mean, and so it was in that moment when we were there in Hawaii that I was like, I have got to do something different. What has got me to this place is not working. And realistically, I'm not going to leave my family and stay in Hawaii forever. So what do I need to do? What do I need to change? How can I shift? And I came home and it was looking around the house. I realized so quickly that I felt like I was spending so much of my time cleaning and managing stuff. And that's not what excited me. I don't like laundry. I don't like dishes. I don't like cleaning. Like I didn't like any of that. My dad at one point had said that he was going to get rid of some of my stuff while he was watching the kids and I was out of town. And I was like, you better not. Like, you better not throw out my stuff while I'm gone. And it was kind of those two moments together that made me realize I have so much attachment to stuff, and my kids don't care about the stuff. They don't care about the toys. They just want me, and they want me to be happy. So that was kind of the start of me sort of clearing out the physical stuff in my house. And then over the last couple of years, really developed this idea that it's not about just clearing out the physical stuff, but clearing out all of those other beliefs that we have or expectations that we're holding over ourselves, or, the things that we allow to fill our calendar and our time and our energy, like where our energy is going, and how can we really get rid of all of the extra and the excess that doesn't bring us joy and make us excited and really aligns with who we are and where we want our life to be, rather than everybody else around us. So that was kind of a quick journey.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And especially when we see other people, or when we have other people in our lives that notice that our relationship with our stuff isn't healthy, and yet we can't really see that ourselves.
Yeah.
And I really loved when we were talking a little bit off air, how you gave a couple examples of either people that store a lot of stuff and there's a story behind that. It's not just stuff, and people that just get rid of stuff really easily. And there's also a story behind that. There's always a reason, right? And really our house and our lives is a reflection of what we have inside of us. And until we're able to see that and admit that, things are never going to change, which is exactly what happened to you and your story. Can you share a little bit more about those details of, people that tend to be more of hoarders, as opposed to others that don't have that attachment to things, but there's still things that they need to work on in terms of decluttering?
Yeah. So I think oftentimes we don't really think about all of the different layers as to why we hold on to our stuff. We just think of it as stuff, and we think of like our house and our home, or maybe the way we were raised. And what I found is that there's oftentimes these like deeper levels to why we hold on to stuff. For some people, it may be related to fear of losing things and then not being able to get them back and not having the money. So it might be out of this idea of lack of money. It could be from an experience maybe you had in the past. So whether you were with an abusive partner and you had to run really quickly, or maybe you were a single mom and for a long time it was really hard to provide for your kids. And so we take on these experiences that we've had in our life, and that determines sometimes how we interact with the stuff that's in our home and in our space today. And so I know for me, I initially was one of those people that held on to all kinds of things. I would hold on to glass jars, and I'd hold on to plastic little trinkets, or like anything that I thought might be useful someday. I held on to it thinking, gosh, I might be able to use this someday, and I might be able to create something, or I might need this, or whatever it was. And then I realized that whole idea of like saving for the one day, maybe if sort of thing, was operating out of this fear that I wouldn't be able to have what I needed when I was there. And so understanding that, like I've worked with people that have run away from abusive spouses in the past. And so for them, having not a lot of stuff in their home, or a lot, depending on who they are, can come from that sense of wanting to be able to leave quickly, like fearful that they may be in that situation again someday and they would need to be able to pick up and leave quickly. Or maybe the opposite of they hold on to stuff because they've never had that. And so they're really afraid that if they let it go, that it will bring them back to that place that they were before, where they didn't have what they needed. And so it's kind of this, we look at decluttering as maybe this spring cleaning sort of thing, and we get rid of something, but there's really a lot more to it. And also, I really like to think of decluttering as like focusing in on those things that matter the most to us, and really living a life that's authentic to where we are and who we want to be. So.
Mm-hmm. And also being more present too, right? Because if you're thinking about maybe I will need this someday, you're not really living for right now. You're already expecting something that you can't predict, but maybe, and it's that lack mentality too. It's crazy how that goes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But so how do you encourage people to start this process? Because I know for most women listening, they're probably thinking, yeah, I have a lot of stuff that I need to get rid of, or I am tired of putting stuff away because I have so much stuff. I mean, even me with my kids, this is a process that we go through several times a year of, let's get rid of these clothes. Let's get rid of these toys. They don't play with us anymore. Let's be more minimalistic. The less stuff we have, the easier it'll be to clean up. I have learned.
Yeah.
So where do we start? What do we do if it's not just a spring cleaning like you mentioned?
Yeah. Well, and I think you brought up this idea too. I'm like, I didn't want to be a household manager. And so there was this idea of I can go through and declutter my house or organize it a one-time thing and, buy this fancy bins and put all the toys in this box and all the socks in this box or whatever. But over time, to keep up with that organizational system was going to mean I'm just spending my time now managing stuff rather than actually having the extra time to do what I want. It may look cleaner, but I'm still not spending the time doing what I want to be doing. So the first step, and in what I call like my rise above method, is to really hone in and figure out what are those things that matter the most to you. When you're 80 years old and laying on your deathbed, maybe not 80, maybe 100, whatever, when you get to that place, what do you want your life to be reflected of? What's going to be the thing that matters to you the most? In each season, things may shift and change too. Like it may not be the same things your entire life. But when you look at that in the moment where you're at right now, what are those things that really matter the most to you? And for me, having a clean house was something I really wanted, but it wasn't one of my top priorities. So you have to figure out if it's something I really want, but it's not a priority, what needs to shift and how can I make that work so that I can have both? And so really the first step is understanding what are your priorities. And right now in your life where you're spending your time, does that match to those priorities? So for me, in our family, like making memories and having fun is a big thing for us. It's a core value. It's one of our, priorities. And so what I found is I was spending all my days cleaning up the house rather than going out and doing those things. And so by getting rid of some of the stuff in our house and getting rid of some of the things on our calendar, now I can take the kids to the zoo, or we can go to the beach, or we could go for a bike ride, or we could go do these things because I'm not being tied up in the house. So I think really being intentional about what those priorities are and like what you want your life to look like so that you can like almost configure how you want your days to look today so that the outcome is that actual value that you want. So that's the first thing. I think so many times we go throughout the day, we go throughout life, and we just are reacting to whatever comes our way rather than actually being really proactive about our day and really proactive about our time and our energy. And it's so easy as a mom, like a stay-at-home mom or even a working mom, to spend all of your time at home cleaning. But yet at the same time, that's not what we want to be doing. So if that's not, we have to know, rather than just reacting to the mess and the things that are there, being really proactive about where we're putting our energy and our time so that it aligns with those priorities.
Oh, I love this so much because it's got everything to do with what I believe in and what I talk about and what I teach my students and my clients, that we have to stop going through the motions and understand that we really have a choice, right?
Yeah.
Our life every day is a choice. It's not just getting by and getting through another day. And when you're busy, when you have people you have to take care of and a house you have to take care of, it's very easy to forget that, every day doesn't have to be the same. And you get to enjoy every single day. And it all starts with looking within and understanding what works for you. And one of the things that you said that I really love is how we have these expectations of this is how it's supposed to be because we look at other people's lives, right? Her house was clean. Like we'll go to somebody's house and you're like, oh, my house is not like this. And you're ready to get down on yourself. And you think, I'm not that great of a mom because my house is not clean. But hey, what do you want it to look like? What does your family feel comfortable with? And it's really important to take a step back and look at all of it and decide what works for you. Because this is what I believe a lot too, is understanding what works for you, because every family is very different. And one thing that you said that I feel like adds a very important piece to this whole conversation is talking about our calendars. Because when you think declutter, instantly you think things, closet, right? Garage,
Yep.
basement. But how about our calendars? And especially what you were saying about if you're a family that prioritizes having fun and doing things, then you have to be able to declutter your calendar too. So tell us more about that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the same kind of idea of like reacting to what's coming our way as moms, especially moms with multiples or multiple kids, even like you, like multiples in one set. We're going to have constantly things that are coming our way. There's the bake sale, there's the fundraiser, there's Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and there's basketball and soccer. And like, there's so many things just for our kids that are going to be coming at us. And then there's the other things like being room mom. Am I going to be a working mom? Am I going to be a stay-at-home mom? Am I going to, have a girls' night? Like all of these things are coming at us. And while each and every single one of them may be wonderful and good in its own standing sense, it may not be what's good for you. And so being really aware of where you, in having those core values and like understanding them from the very get-go, that allows you to have a really good judge of what you say yes to and what you say no to, and to do it in a way that it like feels okay and it feels good to you. I think in the past it was like, oh, I don't want to say no to that, so I'll just take it on because I don't want to be the person that backs out on this event or whatever. But yet now I know like what my core priorities and intentions are right now. And so saying no to things that don't align with that comes so much easier. And so that I know that the things that are on my calendar are things that I've made a priority. Like I have chosen for them to be there, and they're there because I want them to be there, not just because I have to do them. And so I think that, and like you go back to like the same idea, like you get to be you get to make the choice. You get to choose what goes on your calendar. And when we stop playing this idea that we're like a victim of things coming our way and that we don't have enough time, like that's one of my things, like the words busy and not having enough time are kind of one of my pet peeve things. Like we need to stop saying those things. Like as women, we need to stop saying that we're too busy or that we don't have enough time, because ultimately we have those choices. Like if you want something in your calendar, you can make the time for it. You can make it happen. And so like you said, we compare ourselves to everybody else, but at the same time, we overwhelm ourselves and don't allow ourselves to actually do the things that we want it to be. And so we're comparing like apples to oranges instead of, what we want and what's on good for us. And so we put things on our calendars and we take things on that we feel like we should do and have these expectations of what other people think. And it just is this big old snowball thing. So it really kind of comes back to that same thing, like knowing, and I know you're passionate about it too, like knowing who you are and knowing what you want and what your family wants too. Like this is a process, like for me and my husband, like we've sat down together and said, what are your core values? What are mine? And now how can we make family core values so that we're living out this thing together? And so my kids know that, making memories and vacations and having fun is a big core value for our family. And so when they're asking for something, to spend money on a LOL doll or whatever it may be, all I need to do is provide that shift, that mental shift of saying, okay, if I buy you this doll, that's fine, but that's going to take away money from the vacation that we want to go on. So which do you want to choose? And 9 out of 10 times, they always choose the vacation. And so it's really powerful to have that, like when you go into those situations, I don't feel guilty or upset about telling her no anymore because I'm empowering her to show like these are the trade-offs if you choose this over this. And any yes that you say is going to have a no to something else in your life. So being aware of that, like if you say yes to something that doesn't float your boat, know that it's going to say no to something else. And that no is maybe something that you really desire.
Oh, that is so powerful. And especially when we talk about modeling this to our kids too.
Yeah.
Having them understand the power of their choices, right? Because even at a young age, they're already making their choices and we have to educate them and show them, okay, this is what we're doing. This is what you want to do.
Yeah.
and how powerful is that for us to first realize that and then be able to pass that on to them. I love that so much. And tell us how you work with women then. So somebody's listening and they're like, all right, this message is for me. I need to get organized, both with my time and with my stuff and with my feelings, because everything is interconnected. How do you work with these women?
Yeah. So coming up in January, on January 13th, I am hosting a free challenge. It's called the Great Clutter Clear Out. And so we're going to walk through kind of why we need to declutter, how we get started with it, what it looks like. And it really kind of comes from more of this physical stuff, because I think oftentimes that's where women get stuck and hung up. It's like we can't focus on anything else because we just feel like our calendars are too full with cleaning. And so if we can offload some of those tasks, like offload some of the cleaning and the time you're spent doing that, then we can actually get into working into, how can we clean up your time, and how can we clean up so that every day, you wake up great. I have a client just recently, she shared in the group that she was like, I woke up happy today for no apparent reason. Like I just woke up happy. And she's like, I cannot think of the last time that's ever happened where I woke up happy without having like a reason for waking up happy. I just felt good. And so like that is my ultimate goal. I want moms to be able to wake up happy and to feel joyful instead of hitting snooze every day, every morning, just thinking it's going to be a hamster wheel the next day. And so but really, it's kind of all about like decluttering all the way around, like all parts of our life. Because I really believe that decluttering our homes, our time, our energy, our mental capacity, like all of that is truly the best way to rise above all the overwhelm that we feel every day. So the challenge is coming up in January. And then I have the Rising Moms Club, which is a community that walks through like how to declutter, how to walk through the Rise Above method, and how to go even deeper and have coaching and support and all that kind of stuff. So those are my two main ways.
That's amazing. I love that. And I know you've given lots of amazing advice already, but I always like to end the episode before I ask you how to find you with like one last thing that maybe you have in your heart to share with this mom that's listening to us.
Yeah, I think that really the biggest thing is to understand that you do have a choice, that you may wake up in the morning and feel like there's heaviness on you. You have so much on your calendar and there's just, you can't handle and you can't do it all. And I want you to know that you don't have to do it all. You get to choose what things you do and which things you give your attention to. And it's okay to let some other things go. I think it's really hard sometimes for moms to feel like we have it within our power to let things go, even things that seem really amazing and wonderful and great. But the only way that we're going to actually truly thrive is if we're giving all of our attention to those things that matter to us the most. And so giving yourself permission to say no to things and to choose those things that matter the most to you, and that's okay. And that sometimes it may not resonate well with the other people that are around you, but at the same time, recognizing that they're coming at that with their own values and their own expectations, and you don't have to have those same values and expectations. And so releasing that is really powerful.
Yes. Oh, it really is. And it goes back to the whole thing of you have to figure out who you are and separate from the other people, because we live most of our lives for other people. And that's ultimately what makes us unhappy, because we're living for everybody else and what they are going to think, when in reality, they're living for what other people are thinking. So they're not even thinking about us, and everyone's just wasting their time feeling overwhelmed.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You think of like how many billions of people are on this planet, but yet we expect that everybody's going to think the same way, live the same way, and have the same expectations. It's just crazy sauce.
Yeah, no, it makes no sense. Well, thank you so much for those amazing words. How can we find you?
Yeah. So I do have my podcast, which is the Rising Moms Podcast. And then you can find me on Instagram at Renae Fieck. And then my website is renaefieck.com. And then the Great Clutter Clear Out is coming up too. So that would be just renaefieck.com/Great Clutter Clear Out.
Awesome. I'll have all those links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Renae. This is such a powerful message.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
How amazing was this episode to end 2019? Start thinking about what you can leave behind to start the new year and the new decade lighter, focusing on what really matters to you and your family. Don't forget to connect with Renae. All her links are in the show notes. And don't forget to join us for a 30-day self-love challenge starting January 6th. Just go to martasburke.com and sign up for the Empowered Woman School. Until next time, bye.